me if you want to live.
Those of you who know me a little bit, and some of you do, know that I have been pounding the pavement for almost 35 years on the issue of globalization, the global elite, and in particular, the machinations of a group known as the Trilateral Commission. This was a group, not government. It was a group of 300 people from around the world, actually about 186 to start, today 300. And there's about 1/3 of them from the United States and 1/3 from Europe and 1/3 from Japan. They met in plenary sessions to discuss and hammer out policies, and they voted for consensus, and they went back to their respective countries to implement the policies that they had basically created in secret. And we discovered that this group had as an intent to create a new international economic order. That was their words, not mine. New International Economic Order. It was later shortened to New World Order, mostly by George Bush the first, when he started referencing it as the New World Order. But the New International Economic Order was a phrase created to guide their entire future. All the policies they wrote were scoped around that phrase. 3 years ago, I'm almost ashamed to say, I was doing some research and some reading, and I ran across a historical study that I had never ever heard of before called Tecnocracy. Tecnocracy as an organization was a group that was founded back in the 1930s in the heat of the Depression. And this was a group of scientists and engineers and no politicians to speak of, but scientists, engineers, technicians, and so on, that believed that capitalism was dead and that the resulting society needed to be managed by experts, that is them, the engineers, the scientists, and the technicians. And so they started this popular organization or popular movement called Tecnocracy, and they actually incorporated it, called it Tecnocracy, Inc. And you're thinking, you know, what kind of nonsense is this? Well, the nonsense of it is they had over 500,000 card-carrying members across the country in the course of about 18 months. When we come to the Trilateral Commission in you say, what's this got to do with anything? When we come to the Trilateral Commission in 1973, when it was formed by two people, Zbigniew Brzezinski and David Rockefeller. Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote a book in 1969 called Between Two Ages, subtitle, America's Role in the Technotronic Era. That meant nothing to me back in the 70s. It meant nothing to me in the 80s or 90s either, until I started studying technocracy. And what I found out, looking backwards now at his book, and looking at what I discovered historically on technocracy today, is that Zbigniew Brzezinski was a technocrat. So I went back and I reread his book, Between Two Ages, in light of what I learned about technocracy and all of their original writings, and lo and behold, I find out that the book just parallels exactly what they said in 1932. You follow what I'm saying? Okay? Same themes, same concepts, in some cases the same phraseology. He just used the word technotronic to replace technocratic, you see. Similar, but not quite the same. Similar concept, absolutely the same concept. Some of the highlights of technocracy: by nature, it produces volumes of inviolable regulations that are science-based. Remember that word, you already know it, science-based anything. It creates a totalitarian control in the end, but it is not socialism, communism, or fascism. And I hate to aggravate you on this, but I just have to lay it out. Be aggravated if you have to be. Our ladder is leaning up against the wrong tree on this. It is not communism, socialism, or fascism. It looks like it, but it's not. It's totalitarianism, and it's much worse. You'll see why in a minute. It seeks to replace the price-based economic system with an energy-based system. And think energy currency, think energy credits, think pricing everything in terms of the energy it takes to produce it rather than the free enterprise market system we have right now of currency. Here's some buzzwords. Science-based anything. I don't care what it is. If it's science-based, be suspicious. Sustainable development. You'll find that phrase and that word everywhere you go and read about smart grid or you read about technocracy. It has to do with climate change. You'll see that all the time as well. That's just a straw man, of course, to, to enforce things like the peak oil theory. Managed health care. You say, well, how does that come into it? Well, rationed health care is part of the total package that technocracy originally envisioned. I'll show you in a minute. You'll find that buzzwords cap and trade, carbon credit, stuff like that, even carbon currency. And then lastly, smart grid, intelligent power meters to deliver sustainable energy. There's the word, sustainable energy again. These guys, being scientists and engineers, they sat down and they wrote a very detailed list of requirements that would be necessary to implement technocracy in America, first in America, in the North American continent. And so the first thing, register on a continuous 24-hour per day basis the total net conversion of energy. Requirement number one. Number two, by means of the registration of energy converted and consumed, make possible a balanced load. You'll see the word balanced load all over the literature for smart grid and stuff. They're talking about balancing the load here and there, other countries, North America, South America, whatever, Europe. Number three, provide a continuous inventory of production and consumption. Now, this is not just for energy. This is all production and all consumption. But the first blush is, of course, of energy. Number four, provide a specific registration of the type, kind, etc., of all goods and services where produced and where used. And lastly, provide specific registration of the consumption of each individual plus a record and description of the individual. They're circling the noose of this data collection around us, and now all of a sudden, out of the blue comes smart grid. Technocracy makes no provision for private property, zero. There is no ability to accumulate wealth in a technocratic system, society. Everything is controlled by energy, production, consumption, and everything is controlled from the state top down. Whoever the engineers are controlling it, they're not elected, whatever, but they have the power to control the entire society.